you guys. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. We're going to be talking about Teen Mom stars Maci Bookout and Ryan Edwards because they were recently on a podcast. It was actually, when I say podcast, a lot of times podcasts also have YouTube channels. So they were also on a YouTube channel called the Dad Up podcast, the Dad Up YouTube channel. It came out on Father's Day. And this was actually a Father's Day special where they had Ryan on to talk about him reconnecting with his son Bentley after becoming sober. I watched it. Ryan's poor setup, poor Ryan. Listen, Ryan's fiance Amanda shoots content all day long. She should have helped him out. She should have helped him out on his setup. He had the camera down here. Thank goodness he has a beard because if not, that's like the worst angle to make it looks like you have a double chin. But the beard saved him. But he was just holding his phone like it was moving so much. Amanda should have helped him out before he went on this live because his setup was, you know, obviously he's not a professional interviewee because poor guy didn't know what he was doing. But that's okay. That's okay. On the episode of the podcast, they talked about, him getting sober, him reestablishing a bond with their son Bentley, what it's been like for them to co-parent now. When for years she didn't co-parent with him, she co-parented with his parents and now co-parented with him. Maci actually says that her and Ryan hasn't had a disagreement in over a year, but they attribute that, Ryan himself attributes that to him getting sober. So they talk about that. One thing that I found really interesting is Ryan basically says that he would be hurt if he ever like caught his son Bentley drinking. We're going to listen to the clip and then I have a lot of thoughts because you guys, listen, I try to keep like my thoughts balanced. I try to keep my opinions balanced. I try to play devil's advocate a lot as well, but I'm just going to be 1,000% honest with you guys. We have watched Maci and Ryan for 16 years, and I've seen a lot of people say like, "Oh, I think Maci is an alcoholic. I think Ryan is an alcoholic. I think they both struggle with, alcohol problems." It is my personal opinion they do as well. You don't have to share that opinion. That is a-okay if you don't. If you think they don't struggle with alcohol issues, you are more than entitled to your opinion. But watching them for 16 years and seeing them sitting down on a school night for dinner so many times, drinking alcohol right there with their kids, right in the presence of their kids, and no matter which way you wanna slice it, if you do drink in front of your children and you make alcohol so readily available and you make it your normal, your kids are more inclined to drink versus a household that does not include alcohol. Okay. So I was looking up the statistics on this before. I've looked it up before, but I looked it up again just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. There is a such thing as alcohol addiction, and it is actually worse than addiction to heroin, cocaine, and other drugs because it is so readily available. So we're going to listen to what he has to say. Think if you want. This is Elle listening to this, thinking Maci and Ryan both drink a lot. Okay, this isn't me even saying they drink a lot. This is what we know. They drink a good bit, right? This is with me thinking they do have an addiction to alcohol, Ryan and Maci. Ryan, we watched him get out of rehab twice on the show, and both times went straight to his parents where he sat in the backyard with a beer. There was pictures that popped up of Ryan after getting out of rehab, like 3 days out of rehab. He was in a restaurant and he was drinking alcohol. So yeah, it is my personal opinion that they both struggle with alcohol addiction. Maybe they don't, maybe they do, but that is my opinion. Now, what is even more interesting is the male host of the Dad Up podcast admits here that he struggled with alcohol addiction. He talks about that. And he says, like, it was a very normal thing for me. Like, when I realized it was one day at home, I told my son, "Hey, go get me a beer out of the refrigerator." And that's when it dawned on me, like, oh my goodness, like I am subjecting my kids to this being their normal, them seeing their dad drink. And I'm sitting there watching Ryan and Maci thinking they do the same thing. I'm sure of it. I am sure Maci has told her kids 1,000,001 times, go get me a beer out of the cooler, go get me a beer out of the fridge. At Bentley Sweet 16, they had alcohol. they have alcohol all the time. We'll get into it. Let's go ahead. Let's listen to a clip from the podcast.
And Ryan, I commend you for your sobriety. How long has it been?
Last time I looked at it, it was like 2 years and a month. I think that was a few days ago.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
That's good news.
And this is obviously he is abstaining from, his drug of choice, which I guess would be heroin, maybe pills. He is saying he is sober from that, but he definitely still drinks. And I do think I've seen people say that they vape the vapes that are THC. I don't know that to be sure. I don't know that for sure. I don't know if that's what him and Amanda I don't know if that's the kind of vapes they have, but I've seen a lot of people say, yeah, I have that same vape and it is THC. So,
I have similar story to you, Ryan. I struggled with addiction as well. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and I like to joke that the Marines taught me three things. They taught me how to cuss, they taught me how to kill, and they taught me how to drink. So I struggled with that. And then when we had boys, my boys were little.
Can I just say something? Okay. Y'all know I'm doing body language. In the past few days, I've been really diving into body language because I have to get caught up from when I took a vacation. And when he said that the Marines taught me three things, and the last thing he says is they taught me how to drink, Maci laughed. She was like, I taught you how to drink. Then when he goes into, that being an addiction and a problem, she drops that smile and she immediately looks down. It was like she thought it was funny at first. Oh, the military, the Marines taught me how to drink. Ha ha ha. And it became an addiction. Woo, oh, not funny no more. Oh, wow, this is going to get serious. Let's watch that again really quickly.
4 years in the Marine Corps, and I like to joke that the Marines taught me three things. Maci. They taught me how to cuss, they taught me how to kill, and they taught me how to drink. So I struggled with that. And then when we had boys, my boys were little.
Not funny anymore.
I found my drinking getting a little bit out of control. Now, I was what they'd call a functioning alcoholic, where I did all the coaching and all that stuff. I would never drink when I did that stuff. I never drunk, I never drove, drinking and driving, never did any of those things. I was more of the social, the casual at home kind of drinker. And I found myself one day just kind of watching TV, and I had asked my 10-year-old to go get me a beer out of the fridge. And when he did that, I realized what I was doing. I was teaching him without teaching. I was teaching him about alcohol and about drinking at a very young age. And I knew that that wasn't right. I knew that I had to make a shift. And I was talking to her about it. And it's funny, when I mentioned it to her, her reaction was, yeah, I've been meaning to talk to you about that, because she noticed it. And so I made a decision to get sober, and I've been sober now over 15 years. So it's one of those shifts we have to make for our kids, not only for us, but for our families as well. How's that shift been for you, Ryan? I know it's a struggle day to day.
It was a little different just because I didn't know how to function without drugs, really.
So it's really interesting because I have thought for years, and Maci has always been like a favorite of mine as well. Listen, Maci's story resonated with me. Chelsea's, Maci, Mackenzie, all of their stories resonated with me because I also got pregnant at 17. My baby daddy was a lot like Ryan, Adam. You know what I'm saying? So I always liked Maci. But maybe about a year or so ago, people in my chat kept talking about her alcohol use. And I was like, oh, no. I started paying more attention to it. And then I was like, And then I started, really looking into it with Ryan. And I'm like, dude, why do we think it's not that? If him and Maci was, I don't know, popping pills that much on the show, we would probably start paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying? So the fact, though, that, they're on this podcast to talk about whatever, his sobriety, them getting along, what life has been like for them. And the host, immediately brings up addiction, but in regards to alcohol. And we all know, they definitely drink a good bit or whatever. It kind of silenced them, he's talking about it and they're like kind of, but then he goes on to ask Ryan a question, and Ryan makes sure he says his drug addiction.
But now it's a lot easier, and it's just kind of normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that it's an important lesson for Bentley to learn too, because he's still at a very, a young age, but he's getting into those years where, drinking starts, the alcohol and things like that starts to become more of maybe a topic. So that's something that you guys have to both be mindful of.
Yep.
Yeah. Ryan,
I would say alcohol is definitely a topic. Well, it's just a normal. Alcohol is such a normal in their house. Cassie said, I mean, we do drink a good bit. So alcohol is I was literally watching clips back. I was watching clips back when they had the talk with Bentley about the birds and the bees. It was just a school night, and Maci sits down at the table with her cup full of beer, and Taylor's there with his cup full of beer. So I'm just saying, like, Ryan, struggling with addiction, it affecting them as greatly as it has, for them still, this alcohol to be a situation. And I definitely do think they probably struggle with alcohol addiction, but but it's just like nobody admits that alcohol could be a problem, but it makes me think, God forbid one of the kids, because it was just such a normal for them. Like, how would a parent feel, living this kind of lifestyle, drinking all the time, it being in your house, your parents seeing you all the time, drink, 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 you drink, 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 and then your kids start drinking. And then God forbid you lose a kid to freaking alcoholism. At 38 years old, I was actually looking this up, and I actually found photos of this guy before and after. And at 38 years old, he's dying. Could you imagine knowing that you were the person that like really introduced alcohol into your kid's life because you did it so much?
I want to ask you, have you had conversations with Bentley about your past addiction problems, and how have those conversations gone?
It's not been like in-depth conversations, but it was just kind of like, hey, this is kind of why, I wasn't there and stuff like that. He definitely knows that I was but nothing too much that had detail in it or anything like that.
Yeah. And how would you handle, as a dad right now, how would you handle if you maybe caught Bentley, or maybe he asked you questions about, alcohol or drugs or something? How would you handle that?
I mean, I would most definitely answer any question he had. If I was to catch him, I mean, drinking, I'm not for sure. I feel like all 16-year-olds are gonna experiment and try it and stuff. Um, but my feelings would definitely be hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he says his feelings would definitely be hurt if he caught Bentley drinking. But I'm like, okay. And here's the thing, I'm not really trying to knock on them as parents, because my parents drank when I was growing up too. And guess what I was doing? Drinking. I remember my dad's wedding to his wife, his second wife, well, his second and last wife. I remember, I grew up where alcohol was very normal, very much not to the extent of Maci. Not to the extent of Maci. Let me just back that up. My parents drank on the weekends. Every other weekends, they had little parties at their house for their. I remember our bedtime was like 7:30 every other weekend. My dad worked 24/7. He was off on weekends, and every other weekend, their friends would come over, and on Friday nights, we would go to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and my parents would drink. And at my aunt's house, like my aunt, even to this day, has a house designated for their parties, where they have big drinking parties. I don't go there. I don't bring my kids there. I don't remember the last time I've been there, because like everybody there drinks a lot, and they have a lot of health issues. My aunt has even like had to undergo like surgeries and stuff, and she still drinks. But because it was like as I got older, never did I drink at my parents' house with my mom when they were having their parties. But my mom and dad got a divorce, and my dad started going to my aunt's house, who would hold parties. And guess what us kids started doing? We started drinking the Boone's Farm. And the parents, at first, were like hiding it from them, but then like they realized we were doing it, didn't even care. And we're literally like 13 years old, and we're drinking Boone's Farm because all the adults are partying and they're drunk. And so I just don't think it's a good situation. And if you are growing up with parents that already struggle from addiction, yeah, just a few pictures that I found on the internet. And you guys, it's just to kind of show like how normal it is, the drinking that the kids are subjected to. It is extremely okay. And here's the thing. This was before Maci was 21. I'm not trying to knock on her. I'm just saying this is something I do think Maci is like a pretty good parent in most regards. And this may be something she may not even consider, is like how frequent she drinks and the impact it could have on her kids. Girl, the Boone's Farm was where it was at back when I was 13. Okay, so this is Ryan before the wedding. Like I said, I understand after the wedding, because it's what you do. You party. This is Ryan straight out of rehab. Straight out of rehab. This is Maci with the beer bong. And like I said, she's clearly on a vacation at the beach. She was 20 years old. And really, I'm just trying to like kind of show this was Ryan right after he got out of rehab. It was a couple of days after rehab. Somebody snapped this picture of him and he was drinking alcohol at this restaurant. Here's Ryan and his friends at his parents' house. It's just such a normal. And you see, that's like where like I broke the cycle with my family because growing up, it was such a normal. I still have friends that, their parents were very much like that. Their parents still party. Their parents are literally 60 years old and they still party every single weekend. They have the fire pit outside. Everybody has alcohol. You got their little 16-year-old kids out there drinking, their 15-year-old kids out there drinking, and it's acceptable. And that's kind of how it was when I was growing up too. It was kind of acceptable, but that's why my parents did it. I did it. When I started having kids, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, and not even because I had the wherewithal to think about addiction. I didn't. I didn't. The reason when I started having kids, where I was like, okay, I don't want to have these big parties and be drinking at my house, and I don't want to live that way, was because me and so many people that I know were victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and some of it came from being in these environments, being at a party at your aunt's house where your parents are there. Your parents are there, but there's 30 adults and, they have all their kids there and even the kids are drinking. And then you got the pervert uncle who does things. So that was the reason when I started having my kids, I was like, yeah, I mean, I've literally and I don't say this to make it out like I'm any better than anybody. I'm not. I am definitely not. But I could count on my hand how many times I've had a drink of alcohol in 20 years. My daughter is 20. When me and my husband went on vacation, we did everything with the kids except one night after we got back from doing family events, family functions, hangouts, whatever. The Sunday night, we were supposed to leave on Monday. We ended up leaving on Tuesday, but Sunday night, me and my husband went out together for dinner. And I had an amaretto sour. And that was the first time I'd had a drink. And I really can't remember how long, just because, and that was my frame of mind. It wasn't anything to do with addiction. It was, I saw so many things happen. I saw marriages ruined. I saw people that I know and love were victims of it. I was victims of it. So I was like, I just didn't want to live that kind of life where I had big parties at my house, or I still went to my friend's house and I was at the big parties and bringing my little kids there, knowing that these things have already happened there. And then somebody do something to one of my kids. You know what I'm saying? So that was an atmosphere I knew the second I had my daughter that I didn't want to be around. This is Ryan drinking. Now this is the night that they talked about the birds and the bees to Bentley. This was a school night. They was like, "Hey, how was school today?" And he told him this funny little joke about how he was reading out loud and his voice squeaked, and he was like, "Moses," and they all laughed, and they were talking about him going to school the next day. So this was literally just a random school night. They're drinking, whatever. So alcohol in their house is it's a normal thing. It's probably, unless they lock it up somewhere, which maybe they do. I don't know. There's the wine. That's probably A1 sauce over there. But this is why I'm right here. I mean, they even took engagement photos with alcohol. That tells you how much, like, they know that their friends are well aware of the alcohol, like how much alcohol plays a part in their life, because their engagement photos, they took this photo. Here's Maci, drinking. This is a lunch, a glass of wine, drinking her frozen drinks, drinking. She was underage in this photo too, but from the article that I read, her parents were there, and in the state of Tennessee, you can actually drink underage if your parents are there. They are on their way here to Ryan and Mackenzie's wedding. Pre-game, everybody was drinking before Ryan and Mackenzie's wedding, apparently. More shots, more shots, She had a 40 ounce in that one. Woo! All right, so a couple of things. I looked up some statistics. I got Chat GPT. Is that what it's called? My daughter taught me how to use Chat GPT, you guys, and I'm obsessed. But I got Chat GPT to do me a little write-up on it. Oh, and here's another thing. Y'all know Ryan Edwards was arrested in 2019. He skipped out on paying a bar tab. Around noon, he went into a bar and drank till about 4 p.m. And then he just walked out without paying the bar tab. So I'm like, if you're getting arrested for skipping out on a bar tab, maybe you have a problem. I don't know. Could it be? Possibly. All right. So this is what Chat GBT wrote up for me. I'm going to read it. Okay. Every year, millions of lives are affected by addiction. When we hear the word addiction, we often think of illegal drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines. But there's one drug that's even more accessible, more socially accepted, and just as dangerous, and that's alcohol. Alcohol is everywhere. It's at parties, it's in restaurants, it's on billboards, and in nearly every convenience store. It's legally, socially encouraged, and even celebrated. But for many, alcohol isn't just a drink, it's a destructive force that silently takes over their lives. Alcohol addiction, also known as alcohol use disorder, affects over 29 million Americans. It literally affects over 29 million Americans. That's more than the number struggling with opioid use, meth addiction, or cocaine combined. That is insanity right there. And I know there's going to be people that's like, they don't have a problem with addiction. They don't have a problem. And I'm like, maybe they don't. Hopefully they don't. But one thing there's no denying is that alcohol is around their kids. Their kids are very much aware of what alcohol is, the fact that their parents drink alcohol. It is at every celebration. So just that alone, even if they're not addicts themselves, but just the fact that they do have it around their kids as much as they do can affect the kids. And we'll go over that in a minute. Like other drugs, alcohol changes the way your brain works. It affects your decision making, impulse control, and even how you experience pleasure. The more you drink, the more your brain adapts until it starts needing alcohol to function. And quitting, it's not just hard, it can be deadly. Alcohol withdrawal is one of the few withdrawals that can lead to seizures, hallucinations, and death without medical supervision. This isn't just a bad habit. And this is what, honestly, I just feel like parents that have alcohol in front, like drink whatever, maybe don't drink it for your kids, that way it's not just your kids are not exposed to it, because statistics tell us if you drink around your kids, if your kids are exposed to alcohol, then their chances of drinking and trying it and becoming addicted are more likely or greater than those that are not. So just why not, This isn't just a bad habit, it is a life-threatening medical condition. So how does alcohol addiction compare to other drugs? Opioids can lead to overdose, but alcohol kills more people globally every year. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that. I had no idea that alcohol kills more people globally every year. Cocaine and meth can destroy lives quickly, but alcohol destroys health slowly, leading to liver failure, heart disease, and brain damage over time. Nicotine is addictive, but alcohol impairs judgment, increasing the risk of accidents, violence, and suicide. The truth is, alcohol is one of the most dangerous and underestimated substances we know. And here we are, congratulations on Ryan for getting sober from heroin, but he is now drinking on a pretty regular basis. So, because alcohol is legal and normalized, people struggling with alcohol addiction often feel invisible. They might not realize they have a problem until it's too late. And society doesn't treat them with the same urgency or compassion that we show others of battling drug addiction. That needs to change. The good news is recovery is possible with the right support, treatment, and community. People can and do overcome alcohol addiction every day. Whether you're struggling yourself or love someone who is, and know this, you're not alone. Help is available, and it's never too late to seek it. Let's stop treating alcohol like it's harmless. We're literally talking about a man who has struggled with addiction the entire time he's been on television, but he said it was to X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I think it's also to alcohol. Now, do I know this for sure? No, I don't. But knowing what we know about alcohol, how much we see him drinking, it's very likely and it's very possible. Let's start having real conversations. Let's end the stigma. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol addiction, reach out, talk to a doctor, a counselor, or a support group because awareness can save lives and every life is worth saving. Okay, so also, Ryan Edwards is court ordered to be on a maintenance medication called Vivitrol. You are not supposed to drink alcohol when you're on Vivitrol. You're not supposed to do it. In Louisiana, you can get alcohol everywhere. Yeah, pretty much. So the fact that he's also court ordered to be on maintenance medication and knowing that he drinks with it when you're not supposed to, he's breaking rules there. He's doing something he's already not supposed to do. Here's a few pictures, you guys. Yeah, we have drive-through liquor stores. Yep. Okay, this guy is 35. Here he is before. Here he is after. He had to have a liver transplant. Dying woman, just 36 years old, is denied a liver transplant from her own partner after doctors made an alarming discovery. So 36 years old. 36 years old. This was just, like I said, regular Tuesday school night. They're going to talk to Bentley about the birds and the bees. Just a normal thing. It's at Bentley Sweet 16, there was alcohol. I mean, when Ryan and Mackenzie went and had lunch with them, where Bentley was going to go stay the night one time, that they're drinking alcohol. It is so normalized. And I don't know. I hope Maci being on that podcast, I hope her hearing that guy talk about alcohol addiction and how, it's just as serious as anything else. It's even more serious. I feel like alcoholism is like a silent killer because it's so socially acceptable. So people just drink. There's no one holding them accountable, really. You can sit there and drink in your house in front of your kids and your wife's not going to say anything for the most part. But you can't sit there and snort a line in front of your family. You know what I'm saying? So you can have a party where you drink alcohol, but you can't have a party with everybody sitting around and you're snorting a line. So it is way more socially acceptable. It is socially acceptable, whereas these other drugs are not. So I don't know if Maci I don't know, like if she's never looked into it, if because it's such a normal thing, like her parents drank, Ryan's parents drank, she's just never considered it. Wow. Alicia says, my ex and boyfriend was 28 when he was denied a liver transplant due to his alcoholism. He died at 29. Wow. Colton says, I kind of resent them for doing this to Bentley. I don't think that was for his benefit. I think it was for a storyline. Oh, yeah. They're talking about the birds and the bees on TV. That was so weird. I'd be so mad. Didn't Larry pretend to hand Bentley a solo cup at his 16th birthday? I would not be shocked. I really wouldn't be shocked if he did because it's just it's like kind of how they live. I mean, listen, if you go find Jen's, I think it's Jen's social media page that I found, like they party like they're kids. They got a pool in the backyard and like the kids will be there, they're drinking and they're, having, I think it's just so normal here. No one really says anything. And that's how it is too. It's that way here too, Cass, because so many of my friends, same thing. My very best friend, like I said, her parents still hold these parties. My aunt, they still have these parties. And the reason why I didn't, like when I started having kids, it wasn't even because I registered addiction. It was because the fear of, my children being sexually abused or assaulted or even, raped while at an event where everybody's drunk. The adults are drunk. The 16, the 15, the 16-year-old boys are walking around with alcohol. The 15, 16-year-old girls are walking around with Boone's Farm, so that's what did it for me. And, I'm glad that it did it. But here's a little bit of statistics about growing up around alcohol. It says growing up around alcohol does increase the likelihood that children will drink and potentially misuse alcohol compared to children not exposed to alcohol in their home, according to research from the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. All right, so let's elaborate a little bit on that. Increased risk of drinking. Studies indicate that adolescents whose parents drink frequently or binge drink are more likely to drink themselves. This suggests that parental drinking behaviors can normalize alcohol use and influence children's attitudes towards it. Providing alcohol to children, even in small amounts, is a risk factor for future alcohol misuse, according to research. This can create a permissive environment and encourage underage drinking. Positive parental attitudes towards alcohol, combined with poor communication and unhealthy modeling, can also contribute to increased risk. Conversely, clear rules against underage drinking and open communication about the dangers of alcohol can be protective factors. Studies also suggest that strong emotional ties with parents, consistent and fair rules, and open communication can delay the onset of alcohol use and decrease the likelihood of escalation, according to research. Children of parents with an alcohol use disorder or are at a higher risk of developing alcohol problems themselves. This can be due to genetic factors, the normalization of unhealthy drinking habits, or the negative impact of living in a chaotic household. The earlier a child is exposed to alcohol and the more they see their parents drinking, the more likely they are to develop problems with alcohol later in life. If parents choose to drink, explaining that it's for special occasions, modeling moderate consumption, and teaching children how to say no to alcohol are important steps in preventing future problems. And so, like I said, I think like this has been like a normal lifestyle. Maci's parents drink, Ryan's parents drink. And here I am, I'm thinking like, Maci and Taylor drink, Ryan drinks. So what if Bentley grows up and becomes an addict? But literally, I think because Ryan's parents drank and because Maci's parents drank and it was so normal for them, I think now we got Maci, who is, I think she's an alcoholic. That is my opinion. I don't know that for a fact. And I'm basing it off watching her on TV for 16 years. And, people's going to call me a hater. But if you've watched my channel, I've always been like pro Maci. I've always liked Maci. I don't agree with some of the things she's done lately, but I still like appreciated how she seemed to put Bentley first, Like I'm not the biggest fan of like how like Mackenzie has been shown, and because Ryan's sober, all of a sudden Mackenzie and Amanda are like buddy and Mackenzie's the bad person, and I don't really care for that. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of it. But as far as like I've never hated Maci. I've never not like Maci. I'm not a fan of the latest actions or whatever. I really wish they could all get along and could all be included in, how they co-parent and get along or whatever. And hopefully that will happen. But so nobody can say, oh, you're just a hater. And that's why you're calling Maci an alcoholic. No. People would talk about this in my chat. And I was defending Maci at one point, like, no, we don't really see much of it in her life. There's no way. I mean, Maci and Amanda, sorry. There's no way we would really know. Like, maybe they're filming on the weekends, but then like going back and watching the footage, like the more I like cover them, I'm like, dude, like on a Tuesday night to talk about the birds and the bees with their son, they're drinking. At his Sweet 16, they're drinking. Ryan right at a rehab, drinking. So then I'm like, yeah, I don't really know if you can, I don't know. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and get off. I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Go watch my video over on Fatal Files. Do y'all want to go live on TikTok for a little bit? I probably only have like 30 minutes. I'm exhausted, but we can do a TikTok live where we talk about whatever if you guys want. Yes, I will be live on TikTok tomorrow night to do Mama June for sure. Do y'all want to go live on TikTok or no? All right, let's go over to TikTok, guys. Give this video a thumbs up and I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.